All right, exciting news. You just got an offer on your house. Now we've got to do some due diligence. It's got a nice shiny price tag. What else do we need to know? Hey, this video is for sale by owners, for agents, or for clients that are working with agents, understanding what goes on in due diligence prior to accepting an offer. What's up, everybody? Brian K. Thanks for joining my channel here today. We're in North Idaho. A lot of this is going to be captured around North Idaho, but can be spread across the country. We've just got a shiny new offer for our house or our piece of property. It has a great price tag that we like, yet what else is there that we should be looking into prior to accepting this offer? If you're for sale by owner, you're going to be doing this yourself. If you're an agent, you should be doing this for your clients. And if you're a client, this is what your agent should be doing. Okay, so we get the offer. When I put an offer out on the market, I have instructions to a buyer's agent of how the best way is to submit an offer to us. That includes submitting proof of funds with the offer. Proof of funds, if the buyer is lending or they're borrowing money from a bank, is going to be in the form of a pre-qualification or pre-approval letter. Now, these can be made up, absolutely, 100%. However, you should be calling the bank, Mr. Loan Officer, Mrs. Loan Officer, I have a pre-approval, pre-conditional letter from you for John and Jane Doe over here, and I'm just curious, is this letter valid? This does a couple things. One, starts a great relationship with the LO, the loan officer that you're going to be working with on the bank, right? It also gives you an opportunity to talk about the type of loan. Maybe there's some nuances to this loan. Oh, hey, we're not going to have an appraiser out there for 60 days or something silly like that, right? You get to talk to them about the timelines. If they don't think that they can close this in 10 days and your buyer has a 10-day closing, that's a conversation you need to be having before you put this thing under contract, right? And you want to ask them about appraisal. Hey, there's times where a buyer makes an offer. We just had one yesterday where a bank will waive the appraisal. That's really good if you're a seller because that's one less hiccup down the road to cause a stir in the pot. Okay, so maybe this is a cash offer. What are you looking at from this? Well, typically you'll get either a bank statement or you'll get a letter from a financial institution. It could be a bank, it could be a money market account, fill in the blank, where a money manager has written a letter saying uh, Alice in Wonderland has, if your purchase price is $200,000, at least $200,000, enough to do the purchase in their bank. So I call those financial institutions. Look, a good proof of funds is going to have the financial institution. I don't care whether it's a bank doing a loan or a cash. It's going to have the financial institution. It's going to mention the buyer in there, and it's going to be signed by a representative of the bank. Call that representative. Ask about the validity. I'll tell you a story here. Got an all cash offer, fantastic. My client's elated through the roof. And I'm like, hey, I haven't been able to prove on this proof of funds that he sent over to me. Long story short, it cost me about $110 for a 15-minute call to Hong Kong to find out that that bank wasn't the right bank, even though the letter appeared to have that. And once three other banks here in America, I was able to get a hold of someone who said, no, 100% this is a fraudulent account we've shut down, and this is not a legitimate proof of funds. Why is that so important to my seller? Because that could have taken weeks to uncork. Or there's even fraudulent activity where he could have sent a fake bad check. We accept it. My client goes and cashes it, blah, blah, blah. So you've got to verify proof of funds. LLCs. Okay. So you get an offer and it's from John Smith. You're really probably not going to know much about John Smith, even though you may ask your agent and he gives you some information back. Or you ask the buyer's agent if you're for sale by owner and they give you some information back. LLCs are a little bit different. LLCs, the due diligence process changes a little bit, and there's some other things that you may notice in your offers that come along with LLCs. So I always go on to the state's website and check out the LLC. I want to know who's involved in this. Is this a legitimate LLC? Um, it's very typical for investors to use LLCs. And they may even check the box in there, may assign or do um, Coeur d'Alene Lake LLC or assignees. What that simply means is it's not uncommon for an investor to start the transaction under an LLC. It's a legitimate LLC, but very typically they're going to put that investment into another LLC. It's all about guarding your assets and blah, 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 right? But they're going to do that. Starting an LLC costs money, so they're probably going to do that in the middle of the transaction. So they may start off with LLC number one, and once we've got through the inspection period, due diligence period, fire up LLC number two and assign that offer to LLC number two. Not uncommon. It's I wouldn't lose too much sleep over it, and do your due diligence, ask questions about this. You know the routine. Okay. So, what else should we be looking at? Home sale contingencies. That's a real common one. And what else? What should we ask? What can we do as far as due diligence before accepting an offer? So, what is a home sale contingency? Go back to YouTube channel. You'll find my home sale contingency video. But basically, home sale contingencies means I'll buy your property contingent on me selling my property. So, I'm calling the listing agent. First off, is it listed? If it's listed, is it under contract? If it's not under contract, what kind of traction are you getting? If it is under contract, what kind of terms do you have in there? What's your closing date? Again, does the information you're getting from the listing agent match with your contract to buy your property? So if you call the listing agent and he says, yeah, that's going to close October 13th, but your close date on your contract is October 10th, you got a problem. It's contingent on this one closing, and it's closing after this date, right? So those are conversations you may need to counteroffer. You may need to dig deeper and go, what's really going on here? Other contingencies are definitely case by case scenario. I'll tell you one that we recently had. I presented an offer to a seller, and we were contingent on hooking up a utility. Happened to be the water. Sometimes people ask for a well to be put in or an easement to be put in or whatever. Hey, I'll buy this property contingent on you getting me an easement to the back 40 across Dave's property over there, right? Don't assume on costs. If you have a contingency in your offer to do X before you close, find out what that cost is before you agree to it. Unfortunately, in our case, my seller acknowledged to me that they knew what the cost of that utility hookup was, and they were wrong. It was double that cost. That was an uncomfortable conversation to have later. Okay, so these are things to be thinking about due diligence. Here's another one to look at in the due diligence. And this one I feel really good about just giving the agent a call and fishing them out. It's general mistakes on the contract. When you're looking at contracts every day like I do, you start to see repetition. I was taught early on, you don't leave a blank, it gets an NA, right? So I'm not talking about getting a contract with a bunch of blanks because the best agents out there are still doing that. I'm talking about a checkbox, tax service fee, when that's not applicable to our transaction. I'm talking about mismatches on closing dates. I'm talking about adding wording in on a contingency that you're just not sure, right? I had that conversation 2 days ago with a buyer's agent going, I see your contingency, but it kind of looks like we're getting extra money. Is that the case? And they're like, no, that's supposed to go to this person. Okay, let's get real clear on that. So any other general contract mistakes that you start to see in there? Great agents around here make mistakes. I make mistakes. However, if there's a whole bunch of easy mistakes, or you may want to question the buyer's agent and call them back, because you might have a little bit more hand holding as an agent or for sale by owner to do with that buyer's agent. Oh my gosh. Yeah. As a for sale by owner, you may have to hold the hand of the buyer's agent in some instances. So, anyways, hope this is helpful. Hey, there's a whole lot more we could always dive off into, onesies and twosies. Love that you watched it here. If you guys have information that you want to see more of, hit me up, drop me a line, subscribe to my channel. We put out great content. BK knows the way.